Welcome to the Never Been Promoted podcast and YouTube channel. I'm on a mission to help you cut the time to all the things that are holding you back so you can unleash your entrepreneur. Hey, Thomas Helfrich coming back here for Never Been Promoted, your lovely host. In dire need of a haircut. Just going to throw that out there just for fidelity. I'll look back and go, why did I say that? The truth is I'm looking at it and it's pretty long. All right. Today, we're going to be talking about AI in your content marketing strategy with Chuck Aikens. He's the founder of Tymoo. That's Tymoo, I believe. And we're going to dive into kind of like this, obviously AI is all the thing here and it's 2024, in June and it's still it's still growing. It's never going to stop, honestly. So AI and marketing is going to be the topic today. If this is the first time here, our mission is to help entrepreneurs get better in entrepreneurship by learning to cut that tie, right, to all the stuff that's holding you back, all the excuses, all the things that you're doing out there that aren't allowing you to unleash that entrepreneur within yourself. If you can learn a few things from our guests, from their journey and what they're doing for the world today, and specifically around AI and content marketing, you're gonna move forward. And that's the whole point. We need more entrepreneurs in the world. I particularly want to get more of us in the US being entrepreneurs. I think it's great for everything. And today is our opportunity to learn about that. Before you kind of get going, if you like this, at the end of it, go to youtube.com at Never Been Promoted and give it a subscribe. And if you listen to Apple or Spotify here, I always ask, give it a great review. And if you don't like it, or you want to maybe come on the show or just tell me how to do things better or have an idea, hit me up on LinkedIn here at Thomas Helfrich. All right, enough self-promotion. Let's bring in Chuck. Chuck, how are you doing?
Hey, doing great. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. We've discussed stuff off camera, and the space you're in, I love it. As someone who does a bit of marketing here and there, but you've really mastered some of this stuff with AI. And so before we dive into that, though, I got to ask you as an icebreaker, what AI movie is the best?
Wow. So, and I think the first one that comes to mind because it kind of Ubers up to a whole other level is it her or she?
I think it's her.
It's her, right? Where the actor, and I can picture him, but I'm terrible at remember actors.
Is it Joaquin Phoenix? That one?
Yep, they're right. They develop a relationship, and it brings emotion into the concept of AI. I thought that was that's the first movie that comes to mind for me.
Interesting enough, you think about this, right? It's weird because it's an adult, but it's really this stuff exists today, and more so with kids and AI in particular. If they have digital friends, they create emotional bonds to those, just like you would to a stuffed animal or something else, and something you've talked to. This could be a real thing, like where it could be a real problem too, where somebody deletes my digital friend. Like anyway, so there could be emotional trauma from losing a digital friend that will be part of potentially our future. So I don't think her is that far off. And I think a lot of people are almost at that level to some degree.
Right. Well, I don't know about you, but we had imaginary friends as kids, right? Now AI is just a little less imaginary.
Well, exactly. I can actually create my own imaginary friends now.
Exactly. I have all kinds of imaginary friends. I get along with them really well.
I can still think back to how I fell asleep. I used to imagine myself as this is crazy. I'm going to share this. We're going to get to who Chuck is in a minute here. But it's like this rock monster that lived underneath the covers, and those were rocks and mountains. And I was like, people were always trying to find me. So I would hide. And I'd always fall asleep with like just a sliver of like pillow for breath only. Mm-hmm. And I swear, I still today at 48 can be like, I could leverage that to fall asleep. Just like, I'm just gonna get all snuggly and just get this like little cold air funnel. It's unbelievable. that was my like the imaginary, like had Legos out. It's kind of fun. I don't do the Legos now, to be clear. All right, Chuck, you want to give a little backstory, or start with what you're working on, and give us the backstory of kind of like how you get credentialed into that zone.
Yeah. So right now, the work that I'm doing is helping brands develop content marketing strategies, the processes, the automation, the use of AI to produce branded content. And so that's my current work. The reason that let's say, might be qualified to do that is There's actually a couple layers to it. But first, as an entrepreneur slash business person, I'm also a technologist. And then I'm what people might call an SEO or a content marketer. So when I have always approached content for the sake of search and social, it's through technology. And then more importantly, as an entrepreneur, business person, or creator. So when I work with a brand, I can get inside of, honestly, their shoes and say, if this were my business, how would I do this? And I've done that my entire life. When I came out of college, I stumbled into HTML and websites, making content. My first endeavor, I built a mortgage portal that helped people learn how to buy a house, do mortgage calculations. So I was producing content for the internet in the Yahoo days. Google came along and changed search, which led me into an SEO world. And, I ended up building and running an agency in Denver, Colorado, about 25 people when I sold it a few years ago. And when I left and went out and said, what do I want to do? In in my early retirement, wink, wink, I'm working harder now than I ever have after selling the agency. It brought me back to my roots in content, back to consulting, and back to technology. And then, as we all know, 15 months ago, OpenAI kind of changed everyone's world with ChatGPT.
Yeah, it's interesting. So we've been on OpenAI's beta for agency for over 3 years now, and so when we started off to do, we were like, oh, we have such an advantage, we can use this. And as I saw OpenAI evolving before it kind of got released to the world, I was like, oh man, I'm pivoting away from being a content creation company to what matters, right? Growing the business revenue. Like, this will just be a tool. But it's such a misused tool right now. Let's dive right into that. So creating content with AI and content, to me, I'm going to define it, and you give your own definition. But for me, it's written, it's video, it's audio, it's podcast. I mean, it's anything that you're out there communicating your brand through. To me, maybe you define yours and add to that or dismiss that, but then just kind of start talking through the outside of the onion of where AI plays with that.
Yeah, no, you're right. Your content formats, copy, image, video, audio. I mean, all those are just your content formats. I mean, then you think about your content distribution channels: search, social. Where does YouTube fit in between those two? Email, print. Still, I mean, there's all different ways that you're going to distribute your content. Is it on your website, someone else's website? And then when I get into it and we start talking about AI, you have to start thinking about what type of content you're producing, how you're producing it, and why. Because that is content marketing, not content production, not content format, not content distribution. But what is your content marketing strategy, which then backs all the way up to what is your brand, why do you exist, which backs all the way up to the persona and the customer. So we're way over here in the content that you're producing and the format and distribution, when you really have to start at who's going to consume the content and why do they care?
Well, and that's the problem I think with people face with AI, is that they're still skipping the basic step of the list.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, even before that is, what is it you actually offer and sell, and why would anybody care about it?
Yeah.
And that why and the list are two very tightly coupled things.
They absolutely are. So what I call that is starting in the middle. And in the world of AI, that's starting at the prompt, right? Folks, they'd say, ooh, I need to write an email, or I need to do a blog post, or I want to do a YouTube video. And they go straight to the prompt. And I don't care if it's Claude, Gemini, OpenAI, ChatGPT, right? That starting point is what creates the I don't want to say the bad content, but it's why some people look at AI and say, this just doesn't work. It doesn't feel right, because they're wanting AI to do all the work for them instead of having AI work for them. And that's the first important thing, is that while I've been crafting a strategy framework and a process over the last 18 months, AI is in every step of it, but it is never in the lead. It's here to help me. I leverage it. It makes everything faster, but the steps in the process still have to be followed. You cannot skip them.
Well, agreed. And you're describing my background is like intelligent automation, right? AI. Not so much podcasting, but I seem to fall into it a lot. But the idea is that these things accelerate you, augment you. They don't lead you. You lead it. And if you sucked at creating content or strategy before, AI is not going to help you, I think, as much relative to how someone who already was pretty good at it.
Yeah.
And I talk about this, right? There's the two line, XY graph, a red line, blue line. Red line's above the blue line. Red line are people who are, listen, this is how good they are at their job or their profession. And blue line is the people down. And they can see how far they are off the bottom. And like, I'm kind of not that great. When AI came out, the blue line, which wasn't very good, moved up. And they're like, oh, listen, man, look how good I'm doing now. Look, I'm so much better. I'm getting the red line went exponentially up because they already knew what they're doing. So they knew how to use the tool to accelerate.
Right.
When you're working with customers, are you seeing that same phenomenon where you're like, you see somebody who's really good or they're coming in and they're just like clueless and now they screwed it up even faster? Like, talk to me about like what you're seeing with that.
Well, I mean, that is a good analogy, but and it actually that's a good thing. I mean, if I'm going to make a first pancake that sucks, let's have AI help me make it faster, because then maybe I'll make the second, third, or fourth one, that perfect one, the one you show the kids, right? I can get there faster. So if AI can help me make a mess faster, great. So I realize that the right way to do it, I'm okay with that. But more importantly, as an entrepreneur, unless you are a marketer and unless you are a content creator, you're going to make a mess. So there's some real simple things you can do to say, okay, whether I'm using AI or not, but I'm going to be an advocate for using AI, not because I'm an AI enthusiast. I'm more about a scale automation, leverage the tools that are given to us, advocate than just, straight up, preaching, drinking the AI Kool-Aid. But there's some real simple things you can do to get to branded content that works much faster.
Yeah.
If you interact with AI, right? Think of it like your intern that's always available, and you're going to get into a brainstorming room with a whiteboard. Now it's going to be a Google Doc or a prompt instead. And you can work your way through a quick process that will help you create better content.
Well, let's go through it. So, I always say to people, if you can't explain what you can do in 30 minutes and people can't rip it off, you just got the wrong business. So,
all right, get ready. We're ripping it off.
So, let's say you're out there and you're a B2B service. Let's just go with another marketing agency out there. A lot of marketing agencies do that, lots of things, SEO, website, whatever. Mm-hmm. With that framework in mind, how would you take somebody through let's say just a post on LinkedIn? Like take me through in a scenario. You're an agency. Yeah. Let's go. The floor is yours. I'll go and spin some banners while you're doing this for you.
Right. No, sounds good. So I'm gonna walk you through the narrative. It'll probably take 4 or 5 minutes, and we can stop at any point. But the first thing we need to do before we go to the prompt and ask it for anything is we need to build some supporting documentation. This could be called knowledge base. OpenAI might call it an artifact, or actually Claude called it that last week. And there's 3 basic artifacts you need. And I have tools that help you do this. Now, really, it's some inputs and some prompts where you answer some questions. But the first thing we do is we start with your customer and we build a persona. So who is it that you're targeting? What are their problems? What industry are they in? Demographics, psychographics. We need a 1 or 2 page document. We need an understanding of who's your target audience, and make that a persona, a very specific persona. Now, when we get deeper into strategy, I'll micro segment this, and we might make 4 or 5 personas. We might make 10. We might create a focus group of personas, but it starts there. Second step is, what is your brand promising them? What are the benefits they get? What are the value props? What are you doing for them that's going to change their life? That's going to make them happy. It's going to make a pain point go away. And then last, what is your brand personality? How do you communicate? So who am I trying to communicate to? What am I promising them? And how do I talk to them? Those are our 3 foundational docs. I will not go to the next step until someone's completed them. And I can sit down with somebody, or I've got some self-guided courses, little videos you can watch. You can literally produce these documents in 60 to 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got your docs.
And that's like, and that course set, so it's like an extra, we're talking about a LinkedIn post, but that's a course set that can be used for your YouTube channel. That can be used for
Use it
any
for everything.
inputs for cross promoting. I just want to be
Google
clear.
ads, writing emails, whatever you want to do, right? You have to have these. So we're not even into LinkedIn yet. Okay.
Right. Because you use that way you have consistency across social media, different outlets.
Yeah.
You're going on a podcast. Exactly. What should I say? How should I say it? Like
exactly.
Those things are so core. And you like to, in a day, you can do it. Now, as you continue, so before we go down that next path, how often are you revisiting this? Is it something you come in and say, hey, I actually feel this way, or I'm getting more custom? Do you nuance it and continually update it weekly? Like, what's your recommended on that kind of core set?
So at the moment, when we load these docs or stack them into the prompt by attaching them, right? So if you're not familiar, when you go to prompt, you can write a really long prompt, or you can add 5 files. I usually use PDFs. And then everything that in your prompt is going to reference those PDFs. So these 3 PDFs, they actually are directional, and they don't have to be perfect. You need to get about a C plus or B minus, and you don't have to update them very often. Now, what will happen is, and this is what I see people do, you've got not only different target audiences, you have different segments inside of that audience. So instead of redoing your persona and brand promise to that persona, you should make more personas. So don't fret over, how perfect, your one persona is. Make more, because you might even decide, like I said, to load 3 personas because, this email is going to a broader audience, or maybe on LinkedIn, it's not, you might be talking to different people at the same time. But the artifacts do not have to be rewritten that often. It's not weekly or monthly. You'll know when it's time to change it, mainly based on maybe the outputs you're getting from the prompts. That would be the reason to update it. But your persona doesn't change that often in business.
Well, it shouldn't.
Right? Shouldn't. Right now, new markets, whatever. There's actually another step, Thomas, before you get to the LinkedIn post.
Fire away.
Right. So this is where a concept of a content wave comes into place that a LinkedIn post should just be part of. And the product that I'm developing and working on, the craft I'm trying to automate, I call it tidal wave content. So for most people, you have 3 types of content, and we need to define that. So there's often informational content. There's things that you need people to understand so they can decide to do business with you or not do business with you, which is consideration. And then there's thought leadership, true human connecting, brand building, who am I type content. And we got to know which one we're doing. So let's say let's do the simple one. Let's do the informational. If I'm marketing in a B2B agency, and let's say they do SEO, I'm going to have some real simple SEO stuff that I'm out there talking about. I'm probably going to be prolific in the frequency. It's going to be rather fundamental, and it's probably written for people who don't know what different things are when it comes to technical SEO or content silos or keyword density. I've got to lay down topical authority, right? That's what I'm doing in information. Okay. In the second wave or second layer of content, I gotta differentiate. I need people to trust me, to like me, to understand how my approach is different. That takes more work, and it would be communicated differently on LinkedIn than your thought leadership, where it's like, this is who I really am. This is what I'm really doing. Maybe it is a podcast. Maybe it is a webinar type piece. Maybe I'm interviewing somebody or getting interviewed. It's high human touch. Maybe the frequency is lower, but that's gonna create a different wave of content. So as you can imagine, if I documented this, and I make a content wave brief based on, watch this, who am I targeting? What do they care about? And how am I going to communicate with them, tone and voice? I can develop out a content brief and say, you know what I'm going to do is, I'm making this up in the brief, I'm going to do a blog post a week. I'm going to pick a topic. I'm going to establish topical authority, and I'm going to write a LinkedIn post about that. It's going to be a carousel, no more than 7 slides, and I'm going to post that. So now I have this brief that builds on top of what the persona cares about, how I want to communicate with them, and I'm taking a position in the market. Just going to educate them on what I know. This is topical authority. Going to be prolific. That LinkedIn template post is just going to crank out. And I can do a lot of that LinkedIn post building through a LinkedIn prompt. Okay. So by the time I get to the prompt, I've now loaded 4 documents, and there's a 5th one we're missing, but that's okay. That would allow the prompt to understand what I'm trying to accomplish, to write all those little nuances about the person, my brand, and what I'm trying to get through in this content wave. And the LinkedIn post is gonna not sound like AI. It's gonna sound more like me.
Well, and that's, and I'm looking at some comments here. Some people are sorry, they don't pop up here in the studio, so I'm trying to address them on LinkedIn. Quite a few coming in. You said a very specific thing there. So when you have these kind of core ideas and these core tonalities of what you want to do, and then you have those documents and you fed them into your AI or whatever, then when you write a post, it's so much AI less sounding than when you're hey, create a post about X, Y, and Z, and here's my few inputs, right?
Right.
That does okay, but that's like a C. Like it's like if no one's ever met you before, it would sound very like meh. But if you've gotten in there and you've got some very specific point of views and styles, that's when it starts being effective. I think here, a couple of questions, a lot of stuff coming here. I'll have to catch up on some of the stuff. I think Jeremy had said intelligent automation. What that meant, what that means is when you use technologies to automate process, like AI, like right, to use these, and you do it in a way that's it's accelerating. With a lot of people confuse AI and automation. To be very clear,
Yes,
so
absolutely.
so Zapier, like that's an automation API play that uses, I think, very little actually AI.
Let me give the audience a quick example.
Yeah,
because this is very simple. This exists today on Tidal Wave Content. I could give you my prompt to build a persona. That's AI. Okay. And I don't mind. I shared that with a lot of people. I've run workshops and shared all my prompts. Instead, what I'm now doing is I've built automation through Zapier that if you'll answer 10 questions, I go through a series of prompts and deliver you a PDF. And I do that in less than 5 minutes. So the difference is that using automation, I have systematized my thought process for creating a persona in a way that extracts the knowledge from you and then gives you a persona. That's automation of AI. It's a 7-step process all done through Zapier using using OpenAI and Claude prompts. It's storing stuff in Airtable to build. So that's automation. And you can bring that into any type of process and framework. But if you just want to do AI, then I'm just sharing prompts with you. And then you're modifying prompt and you're inside of the OpenAI screen. And it's a different experience, and your mind's actually thinking differently. And the reason that I would prefer to show people the automation is I want them spending all of their brain cycles trying to get inside the heads of their target audience to define that. I don't want you prompt engineering. I don't want you, running out of, getting throttled by your favorite, large language model. I want you focused on the task at hand. Let me handle the AI and the automation so that you can focus on your brand and your consumer.
So let me dive into something with that, because what I find is if you focus a lot of your AI prompting and thinking, not so much on go create for me, but you go to AI and you're like, hey, think for me. And you propose, let's say, hey, this is the problem that exists in the market. This is the problem I think I solve. When you focus around a problem, then you're getting into someone else's voice of your customer of like, hey, how they're going to think about it. Can you talk about that? Like the steps needed to get from here's the problem I want to solve, I'm not sure how to differentiate, to using AI to help you get there.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you be honest, most people you can't differentiate. You might be the differentiator yourself, the person.
Yeah.
And just having a process, sometimes it's the framework you have is the differentiator. You can actually document your process. So talk about where AI plays in a commoditized type of services, like marketing, let's say.
Yeah.
Because I think that sometimes people are looking for gold when gold doesn't exist in those veins anymore. It's just, you got to do that well. It's table stakes.
Right. So actually 2 things there. And as you're explaining that, Thomas, we'll get back to the, what do you do if you are a commodity? How do you, and I have an answer there. But first, you need to realize that when you are prompting, let's just think theoretically about AI here. This is a chatbot built upon what it has learned. And the way it learns something is it doesn't actually know that 2 plus 2 is 4. It just knows that it read that a couple million times. Now I'm exaggerating. It knows that whenever it sees 2 plus 2, the next thing is equals 4. So anything that you get out of a chatbot or a large language model is herd mentality. So to think that you're going to go to a large language model that has been built and trained upon seeing things in the wild in repetition, how would it create differentiating thoughts for you that haven't already been thought of a bazillion times? So that's first. Secondly, you're exactly right. None of us are doing anything that unique, that different. I mean, I work, even just take something like I do some work in food and beverage, natural foods, walk into Whole Foods. How many different ways can you make beef jerky? I don't know, right? And a new food or snack comes along and it's trying to, put a new little spin on it, but theoretically, it's kind of the same thing. And you're manufacturing not only the beef jerky, but the differentiators. So that's where we kind of need to start with. And what I would tell people when they're trying to differentiate, and if it is about you, own it. And we've all heard this nicheify in your personas, segment, go as deep as you can, because what you're looking for when we're doing marketing and content marketing, we want to make conversations, connections, and then a customer, right? So all I want to do in my content marketing is be authentic, be real, and then direct my content and what I'm saying. So not personalized. People confuse this. You're not going to personalize your message, but you are going to be hyper focused. And AI can help you get down to that lower level. It's not going to tell you what to magically say. You have to decide that. But gosh, it can give you a lot of ideas really fast. That's why if it can document the persona and give me a list of 100 things they care about, and then 100 things that I can talk about, I can find the 8 things that uniquely resonate with me that I want to cover in my content wave.
And let me dive in that niche idea. So this is this ties to some bigger ideas of success. And I'm really focusing on entrepreneurs or in entrepreneurs that are solopreneurs. This is for you and people with side hustles that are trying to get it going. Right. Your definition of success. If you can replace your W-2, your employer salary, with your own work, you are absolutely killing it. Just to be very clear, if your earning potential was 100K a year, whatever it is, in your current part of your world, and you can go out there and make 100K on your own, you are killing it. Don't buy into like the unicorns, the Alex Hormozis, like that's
right.
Great. They can help you. They will advance you, but just know that those people are super good. I mean, they're like, it's not just luck. Those people are actually good. So know that if you can get your salary placed, you're killing it. Now, in the niching, what happens and I'm guilty of it as well, is you feel like you got to be wider than you need to be. And if you're like, on the example, like say you made 120K a year, well, you need to find $10,000 of revenue a year to come in, or a month. I'm sorry. That's maybe 10 customers at around $1,000 a month doing something. A lot of people will buy a service for around $1,000 a month. That's a pretty easy, comfortable thing. You don't need a lot of customers. You need like 14 always kind of on the hook, right, to go, because you'll lose some, you get some. The point is you can get pretty damn niche and talk about your content pretty well.
Yeah.
Based on your own experiences. So that's set up, and I'll get off my pedestal there, because I think sometimes people really struggle with that because they are too wide, even if they think they're narrow. So tell me how AI though can help you maybe discover that, maybe your experiences, and then take that and then test it.
So in that particular example, something that I kind of just popcorn thought, I would want to use AI to make sure I stay on niche. Like as it's diving in to do topic generation or helping me build a content wave, I could instruct it to make sure that, I'm as on niche with my content as I can be. But take almost any niche. Let's say that you were I think, Thomas, you wanted me to role play it if you're a marketing agency. Pick an industry and go deep. Let AI help you go deep on the topics that are going to need to be covered in that particular niche. Then when you say, what size market am I going to hit? And what stage of development are they in? Like when I start doing horizontal and vertical niching, man, AI, if I could just write that down, like I could probably do it in 15 minutes. If I gave it those parameters, it would tell me the type of content I need to educate and make people aware, to help them understand the differentiators and the value props and how to decide if they want to do business with me or competitors. And then I could probably talk about things that really matter to that target audience in that industry, vertical and horizontal. AI could point me in the right direction of what are those topics.
I mean,
And
I mean that is spot on, right? So, because it's going to have a database way beyond your brain. It comes out of the box
right.
for you on that one, and I
Yep.
think then you're also like, to me, I'm looking at like now you got your content strategy in play.
Oh yeah, you're right. And that's what I say, a developed content strategy for a big brand. So if you're an entrepreneur and can do this, you have a full content marketing strategy if you'll just do these 3 levels of waves, and you can do them. You could. I've seen people, they've had success with as little as a few informational pieces of content a month, 1 or 2 in the inspirational, in the second consideration, and then maybe 1 a quarter up at the higher level. You don't have to go balls to the walls, but you do need to be putting this in place and building your foundation, because Google cares about your topical authority for SEO. People that are doing consideration and they're either on your website or checking you out on social, they need to see that type of content. And then lastly, do they trust and build a connection with you as the leader, whether you're, it's a product or a service? And that would not only like get them to finally buy, but it's what they would talk about at the bar or dinner table if somebody asked them for a referral towards what you do. That would be the reason why they would do business with you or tell someone else. You got all this covered. And AI is deeply integrated into all of that. And if I have the foundational documents in your content wave brief and understanding what I'm trying to do, then when I go to the prompt and do a website page, an investor pitch, a Google ad, a LinkedIn post, a video clip, like I understand why I'm making this and who I'm making it for. And I sound less like AI. Like now I can do a blog post in 25 minutes and it can automatically generate a LinkedIn post and have that posted. Like you're now running downhill because you did the foundational work and you did all you did the right work before you ever got to the prompt. And that's why what's important here is to back it up. AI is like the sprinkles on top, right? Like you got to understand your craft and your business. And even if you hire somebody, like, if I come in and help you with your content marketing framework and strategy, then there has to be a process. Then you can automate it. Then you can use AI. And everyone starts at AI and then goes, why doesn't this work? AI is, it's the last mile. It's like the final white glove delivery of the service when you order something. So much goes on before AI does something magical. But we all watch these webinars. We get these sales pitches. We get shown the last step. And then we think we can recreate that. And we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
We didn't put in the hundreds and hundreds of hours of building the process, the automation, and then the AI.
Would they do this with you? Would they go to your YouTube? Like where would they get the free?
Yeah. So these beginning foundational,
you're discussing, right? It's not the implementation. You sell the implementation. Right. So is it Deciphering Digital?
You can, Deciphering Digital podcast. I do. I've played around with that a little bit, but the spot that I would send people was the tidal wave content. If you sign up there, you get access to the tools to build your foundational docs. And then what I'll offer anybody that reaches out to me, if you build your 3 foundational docs, right, I'll do a 30 to 45 minute session with you to create a content wave. So that's
and that is to do your docs, right? Because then you
can do the docs yourself. Yep. But if you put in the time to do your docs, I'll take them, and there's some things that I do, and really I'm taking my 20 years of then knowledge of doing this, and I can help you find a content wave, and you can go, all right, I'm going to make some stuff now. And I know why I'm doing it, and I know what the desired outcome is, and I know who I'm doing it for. And and then you can come up with ideas. But yeah, so go to Tidal Wave Content, sign up. You'll get access to the tools. They're all free. and because it's a Thinkific product, but it's got a $0 price point. And then reach out to me on LinkedIn, and we do a 30 to 45-minute call, and that happy to do that for my favorite audience, even though I can't target it all the time. My favorite group are the other entrepreneurs out there who are trying to make their life and other people's better. I mean, I'd love to help out.
I mean, and I look at yours like you helping other agencies be more effective for their customer would be a really good customer for you, because because they could be better at delivering for their customers. I mean, I have an agency. I can see how you could be like, hey, here's a strategy. This is like bringing you on with my customer to go through and build that persona, so my team could go better execute. I mean, 100% I'd bring you on for that. And I have probably needs, and I'll follow up with you, I'm sure, after this conversation, that's consultative work that I don't really honestly have the skill to do it at a level needed to really be effective. And so I think, if I'm out there and I'm listening to this, or you're watching this later, and you're an agency owner, I bring in people like you for YouTube, like to say, hey, come on, look at this guy's channel. What should we go do? How should my team go execute? Because it's hard to wear both hats of strategy and execution in a company. And sometimes you got to just outsource some parts.
I'll drop one for you, Thomas. I know that you guys do a great job of it, but one of my favorite techniques is just interview, or get you talking as an entrepreneur. 45 minutes worth of Q&A, transcribe it. We start dropping all kinds of waves of content. It is such a rich, the audio, video, dynamic human connection that happens when we're having a conversation is so much better of a way to create your content wave than going and doing keyword research or, looking at the most popular discussions in Reddit. Who cares? Tell me what what you're passionate about, why you run your business, and we will create a wave of content.
You're saying something super important there. Please continue. Sorry, I got a small.
No. It is by far my favorite technique that I would recommend, as an entrepreneur. And I probably do 2 or 3 interviews a week just for the sake of, content ideation. Yeah.
The idea you just said there with, create your content and do it's, you got this spot on. Cause like you have to just spend a few minutes really examining, yourself, but like, don't worry. To me, I'm like, okay, I love SEO. It is such an expensive long-term play though, that you should be thinking about if you're successful and you have the direction. But the truth is, I think focusing on someone's experience while they're on your social media profiles or on your site, because they're deciding to buy because they saw an ad, I think is far more critical in the short midterm than anything else. Because people are there not usually because of SEO. They're usually there because they're interested in buying or working with you. And
exactly.
And I think this is where AI can certainly help, where SEO is something that happens, I think, with some strategy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not underplaying it. It's just more.
Yeah. Just to make sure that we stay on track for the discussion, which is leveraging AI. We will use AI, and it's not hard to use. Like, AI can write the video brief and the questions for the interview. It can process the transcription. It can create the ideas. I can then use AI to enrich and expand those concepts. I can then use AI to do the SEO work, right? I mean, you're using AI in every part of this process that does work. And what it does is doing something like we just talked about, a video interview for transcription. I mean, you're talking about 20 hours of manual work to get to what I call base copy, or, copy drafts. You can do that in 2 hours now using AI, maybe 3. But and so it makes it more available to entrepreneurs, to solopreneurs. You couldn't do this before. You either pay $5,000 a month to an agency, or you'd have to have a full-time employee just to do video work to create ideas. Now we can do it by pushing buttons and automation. That's how you leverage AI. Things that you could never do before are now possible.
It's spot on. So we'll take transcripts from, this is how we're doing our podcast too. So I have a newsletter, and this is where I fit into this thing, is whatever the podcast is, it is, but that's given some prompting and some other things, the articles, the write-ups, the social media, our newsletter for LinkedIn is done by majority AI with human refining, because we just take the original content from the podcast and say, here's what you get out of it. The human element is knowing that I need to drive this conversation so that AI can pick up a good conversation from us. So I
Exactly.
try to minimize the tangents or the things I know about you, because it doesn't add value to the overall conversation long term, because it'll lose context and
Of the
AI will
tool.
pick it up
Right.
going,
So
hey, they
let's
talked
stack
about
both
this,
those
this, and this,
together
and
as
the
we
person's
wrap
like,
up
what?
to go Uber and blow people's mind. You do the foundational docs and you come up with your content brief. Think of all those inputs. Then, because of what you're talking about, Thomas, you had a great contextual conversation that was on point. Now you have another 45 minutes worth of transcribed input. All of these inputs, right? Garbage in, garbage out, hi-fi in, hi-fi out, right? Remember, AI, the reason that it looks so junky and that it produces such bad content is because we're putting junk in. You do this work and come up with your strategy and who you're trying, and then you give it good content, contextual, rich content. I mean, then it ends up doing some really cool things. Then you still have to do human refinement, but that's how you leverage AI. I mean, today's AI is the dumbest that we'll ever experience going forward. It's only going to get smarter and smarter. We have to learn how to inject and put hi-fi contextual conversations into it, and it's going to get better and better at writing and telling, and telling and putting the story together. We can bank on that. We got to learn how to give it the right inputs.
I said this the other day. The AI that we see today is a Commodore 64.
Yep.
It is so cool. Oh my God, it's never been done like this before. If you knew how to code, then you can make a ball bounce downstairs you drew. Like, right, that
Right.
was my first program.
We're bouncing balls.
That's where we're at. This is a floppy
Yeah.
disk Commodore 64. And it's going to just be exponential 2 years, 3 years, 5. And I think at the end of the day, though, there's still a human at the front of that. You and I have a conversation. I think, by the way, all this technology is all there to accelerate. The human's always going to be the lead. The things that are going to work, like the conversations we have, knowing this technology is behind the scenes, is a good example of that's how you use technology more effectively. So drive a conversation that I know AI is going to go pick up, summarize, do things with. I drive my sales meetings the same way, where I'm like, all right, here's the 5 things I need to go do. Let's just make sure we're all on the same page. I'll say those 5 things at the end and say, at the end of that, the actions you want me to call, and we're going to schedule time. So when they get the summaries, I told the AI what's coming. I even sometimes I'll say, hey, let me tell the Fathom AI, when it's reading through the notes, pick it up from here for the summary. If you do that, your effectiveness upstream is even better, because then your creativity of like, hey, that seemed to really resonate. Tell me more. Right. And that's how leveraging, to me, AI really works, is when it's even, maybe it'll eventually be in real time and some other things too better. But I'll get off my pedestal with that.
No, you're absolutely right. That's
the
where
point
we're
is,
at right now.
it's a Commodore 64. It's going to get way better. And the 128 comes out next year, right? When GP5 comes out, right? So,
right. So,
oh man, we are deep in time. Once again, how do you want people to get a hold of you? You want Tidal Wave content, LinkedIn? Here, I'll put some of your banners.
Those are 2 great ones. So Tidal Wave content, where the tools and some of the videos are. All of that's in development, but the tools we're talking about for the foundational docs are there. And then, if you do that work or want to reach out, the LinkedIn address is a great way to get a hold of me. Pretty responsive.
Yeah.
And we'll move it to email, or, we'll have a chat after that. But if you just want to connect or reach out and talk AI, talk content, talk marketing, talk technology. Yeah. Whatever it might be.
Absolutely. Special shout out to Jeremy Ford. He's done a lot of commenting today. So Jeremy, I don't know if you're still listening, but thank you. I appreciate the input and listening. Whenever we get anybody kind of jumping in here, that's great. And I think Alicia was another one, but Jeremy's comments have overtaken it, so I can't even find hers at this point. Jeremy, thank you. Chuck, thanks so much for coming on today. I love the conversation with this, where it's going. I'm sure we're going to do some follow-up interviews here just to kind of learn what the latest and greatest is. I'll leave you with this last question, which is the one I always ask, is if there was one question I should have asked and didn't, what was that question? You still there, Chuck?
Yeah, I am. What was the question again?
Oh, the question.
It was a question and a question and a question.
We had a weird concept. If I should have asked you a question and did not, what would that question have been?
The first thing that comes to mind is, for me, why do I do all of this? And I kind of answered a little bit earlier. I really want to see, Thomas, the folks that are on what I think are on this podcast, I want to see them succeed. I wish I could monetize it somehow. I can't. So the way I kind of envision it is, I'll monetize through my consulting and, helping bigger brands. And I've had the luxury of working with a lot of brands, but I love the spirit of entrepreneurship in the people that, put their lifestyle up at risk, or, take that plunge and that challenge every day. I mean, that's where my passion is, hearing those stories and helping those people. So that's, I happen to do that with AI and branded content, but that's what that's where the passion's at, and why I do what I do.
I love it. And listen, it's one thing. So you've exited. You're doing something different this time, and I think it ties to a bigger notion with entrepreneurship, is to find something you have passion for, because when it gets hard, you're going to need that resilience.
Yeah.
That's the fuel of resilience, is passion. It's like, I'm going to get through this because I really care about it, though I'd like to go sleep in a corner of my office right now.
Right.
And I mean that, because if you don't have that, you're going to go mass apply on LinkedIn for jobs, and you're not going to get any responses, and you're going to be back right where you were.
Yep.
So, anyway, Chuck,
All
thank
right.
you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it. Hang out. I'll have you right back on and talk to you a little post wrap up. Let me say goodbye, but thanks again. Listen, everybody who's made it to this point, thank you. This has been a great topic on AI content strategy. You got to find time with Chuck, because he's really just scratching the surface of what he can do for you, from just the setups and the strategy you'll need to be successful with AI. The little bit of work you'll put in with Chuck, or with the work that he's describing, the multiplier downstream and what it'll do to help protect your brand. It's like, it's noticeable, not only from like how people interact with it, but also the money you're going to save trying to fix it downstream or think through it later. So do the work early, so the work down the stream can be much easier. Thank you so much for listening. Get a hold of Chuck at here's his website again, tidalwavecontent.com, or on LinkedIn here, Chuck Aikens, with here on the screen as well. Thanks so much for listening. Get out there, unleash that entrepreneur. Stop making excuses. Cut all the ties to stuff that's holding you back. If you see something that seems to be slowing you down, ask yourself, why? Do I need it? How do I fix it? And get through it, because this is what's going to help you unleash your entrepreneur. Thanks for listening. Until next time, have a great day. Thanks.